The people on the bus, should they be on the bus or should they be off the bus? Are the people on the bus in the right seats on the bus?
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Fitz and Franson show. Today is hopefully going to be a fun one. I saw a post recently on LinkedIn. It was a couple of weeks ago from a guy that I came up in the industry here with, someone I learned a lot from. He was announcing a big new role that he's taken on, and I made a comment of congratulations that led to him being on the show with us today. So TJ Moon, man, it's been a long time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here, guys. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And TJ, congrats on the new role as the National Sales Director at Apex Energy Solutions.
Thank you.
It's awesome to have you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. And Fitz is right. The story of how this came together is perfect. But before we get into the new gig and catching up, I have to ask about something that Fitz shared with me. You once trained with the Olympic speed skating team?
I
We
did.
got to start there.
Yeah. Yeah, that it was another lifetime. But I was a skating rink rat from the time that I was about 4 years old. I think a lot of us Gen X, like the skating rink was our babysitter. My mom could take me there and it was $3 a day. She could drop me off at 10 o'clock in the morning and I'd be there till 5 and I couldn't leave. So and everybody cool was on the speed team. And Fitz knows, you probably don't. I'm built like a hobbit, and there's not a lot of high school sports that are designed for hobbit folks. So
Okay.
when everybody else quit doing it, I just continued on doing it. And it afforded me the opportunity to train at the U.S. Olympic Training Center. I got to see a lot of the world because of the U.S. team and the travels that we did. And I've been able to train with some of the most elite coaches, not just in speed skating, but I mean, like I've trained with Tim Grover. I trained with Dragomir Soroslin at the OTC. I trained with a couple of like if you watched the Olympics this last time, Aaron Jackson, from your
Yeah.
name there. Well, Aaron's
Yeah.
coach, Renee Hildebrand, was one of my mentors and longtime coaches. So, yeah, it was a phenomenal experience. And I had an Olympic trial for the 1998 Nagano Olympics. Did not make the Olympic team. Successfully fell flat on my face in every race every semifinal that I got into. But
Oh,
still, it
man.
was an amazing part of life and led me
Mhm.
down some incredible paths.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's a cool story, and it's a big part of not that sport, but that discipline is a big part of who TJ is, right? And that discipline of training for athletics in general, but at an Olympic level, is a big deal, right? There's a lot of sacrifice and pain of falling on your face, right? Watching the Olympics here recently, that razor thin margin between winning and losing, man, I'm sure that taught you a lot, TJ, not just about, life, but probably took a lot of that into your career in sales as well too, and what it takes to be successful and succeed in that world. Can you maybe share a little bit about maybe how that world maybe impacted your life in this world, so to speak?
Absolutely. And a lot of that, I lean on a lot of that because there are direct correlations between the two of them. One of the ones that I, especially in sales training and ongoing training with sales reps, that I lean on a lot is something that one of my coaches taught me a long time ago. It's a very simple phrase: champions are made in the dark. Champions are not made in practice. You go to practice to hone your skills, but where you become a champion is the work that you do on your own, not just listening to other people talk, but the books that you read and the practicing in the mirror that you do of your pitch and the listening to yourself as far as your individual commitments that you're getting and your willingness to go turn the mirror around and think, what did I do wrong? Or what could I do better? Or what do I need to improve on? And then seek out those things, right? Like our coaches, for example, when we were on the ice or on our inlines, they would give us advice, but they expected that we were going to come to them to want to be proactive and review what we were doing, look for areas that we could improve. And that's one of the things that I find is really a big separator between good sales reps and arguably even average sales reps to the great ones. The great ones never stop learning. They're always seeking out new knowledge from everywhere they possibly can. And if something's wrong, they don't let it just be wrong. They work on it, they overcome it, they get better at it, and that translates into wins every time. But that's a mentality that you have to forge yourself, right? You either have it or you don't. And if you don't have it, it's very hard to build it. But if you do have it and you say, I'm refusing to lose and whatever I've got to do, I will go do to win, that will take you to the stars. It's incredible.
Yeah.
No doubt.
That's really good. I love the Olympics and I watched a lot of it, and speed skating is always fascinating to me. These guys have thighs that are just, you know, the size of my waist. And a lot of that is really about kind of a explosive power paired with precision, right? Like there has to be this combo. And when you think about some of those techniques, have you like taken some of that stuff and translated into how you show up and build a sales team?
Absolutely. There's a couple of podcasts I watch, and then there's a couple of TikTok channels that I like to follow. They were questioning who could be an athlete. And
Mhm.
speed skating, as are many things, is a very, very technical sport. There's a lot of things that people don't go into it. And I would argue that explosiveness and power are only about 20% of what goes into making a successful speed skater. All the rest of it is technique and form. And when you're training
Mhm.
as a speed skater, it's the same way. 80% of your time is focused on technique and form. 20% is focused on power, right? Same
Mhm.
thing goes with sales and sales teams. When you're building a sale, slow down. It's not about going as fast as you possibly can and getting to the end. How you get to the end is much more important than that you got to the end, right?
Mhm.
Kind of the same thing as far as speed skating. How did you put your power down on the ice? How was your foot placed? What is your body position? All of those things lend itself to speed. Speed is the result of great form. Well, a sale is the result of a fantastic presentation. That's like the natural
Mhm.
conclusion to it. So all of the little things that go into a great sale are technique form. It's all based on the little things that we do. This is a rabbit hole that we can get down in myriad of ways, but little things like eye contact or your body language or your pace and tone with a
Mhm.
homeowner when you're meeting with them, or the way that you talk about commitments or the enthusiasm that you bring, all of those little things are the form that go into the art of sales that we
Mhm.
can train on and help build. And so when I'm building a sales team, or especially when I'm working with one that's not doing terribly great, they all expect that I'm going to come in and I'm going to have a magic pill. And that magic pill is how to overcome the objections or how to
Mhm.
make them just not be concerned about price or whatever it is. When in reality, if you're in a position where you're in an objection battle, that's adversarial, right? It means you didn't do your
Mhm.
job during the presentation to remove those barriers. And so when I teach them, I'm like, yeah, you overcome objections in the presentation. If you get to the end and there are objections, you didn't do your job properly. Well,
Yeah.
that's the same thing that goes along with everything else, right? But you have to help them transition their mindset from one to the other.
Yeah. You mentioned the explosiveness and the speed, and it's more about the technique. It reminded me of was Michael Johnson was the runner in the Olympics with the gold,
Well, shoes.
shoes. You remember it? And man, it was exciting being a young guy watching him. But I remember an interview he was doing, and he mentioned that he was only ever running at 90% of his actual ability, and like the person interviewing him was flabbergasted. Explain that to me, and his response was, "Well, that's the most efficient that my body moves at, in that form that I need to maintain to be that speed. If I try harder, I get erratic and I'll actually run slower."
Mhm.
Yep.
Right. And it was a really like eye opening statement, even at a young age for me to like understand that control and understanding like your body, in that way and translating that into other things was important. But it's not necessarily about how fast you get there, like you're saying. It's about getting there the right way, kind of thing. And he had maximized that to like obviously the highest possible level you could, which was a really cool statement. So when you look at that and speaking about mindset, TJ, and you and I have a good history talking about that stuff many years ago now at this point. But if you were going to say that there was maybe one core mindset of a successful salesperson that you think most salespeople or most poor sales reps are missing, what would that be?
100%. And I can isolate that down to one thing. Your job is not to sell windows, doors, roofing, or siding. Your job is to find a problem, get the homeowner committed to the problem, tailor a solution to what they want, and show them how to buy it. If you walk into a home with an agenda of, I want you to sell, to buy something from me, then automatically you are not operating with the homeowner's best interest in mind, and they'll feel that from you, right? When you
Mhm.
walk in with a consultative approach and you're the doctor, and your job is to find the problem. They didn't invite you there because their windows are drafty or because their roof is old. They invited you there because they're worried about something. You have to find the feeling behind the worry. And when you do that, they'll come to realize you actually care about them, right? Making sure that they
Mhm.
understand that I'm not here this isn't adversarial. I don't care whether you buy something. I care that I solve your problem. One of our old colleagues, Michael Garrison, used to talk about the wall of trust, and you have
Mhm.
to lower the wall of trust as you come down. Well, as soon as that you feel that click and that homeowner realizes you're not there to try to sell them something, you're only there to help them, whoop, wall of trust comes right down, and all of a sudden you're having an organic conversation, and they'll give you all of the responses you need to actually sell them something, right? But you're
Mhm.
never selling, you're only helping.
Yeah. It's a reason I think a lot of people don't like sales people in general, or we get a bad rap. Sleazy car salesman or whatever the thought process somebody has in their head is because people are trying to jam their agenda down their throat instead of just slowing down and asking a question or two and figuring out what really matters. It's a great point. And if you are a salesperson listening right now, I would write that down because that's an important one. TJ, man, let's, if it's okay, I want to go back a little bit where our paths first crossed there. And
Sure.
we were in the trenches at Renewal by Anderson.
Yeah.
And everybody, when that name comes up, it's kind of like the gold standard that most people in our industry are trying to chase after. They do a lot of things really well. But for those that don't know, I was a training manager when I first started there. And you were one of our top reps. You were crushing it. That was a rare group. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. That was a
Yep.
really exceptional group. The standards were extremely high. What do you remember most about the team?
Energy and a collaborative environment in which probably the two things that I really took the most away from that from a culture standpoint were that we are the sum of our parts and you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? No man
Mhm.
left behind. If we had a guy that was struggling, everybody would jump on board and help elevate that guy. We weren't going to sit around and just, oh yeah, you're having a terrible month. I don't know. I'm going to go do myself. We always would jump in, do ride-alongs, trade leads, help each other close deals, and get back on track. And there are many times that I leaned on the other members of that team to help me. We were talking just this morning about how I had a paradigm shift in my mindset because we were talking to two guys that were ahead of me. They were better sales reps. I argue that both of them were probably still better sales reps than me. But we were talking about how I was coming up against a problem I was facing in the home where I was getting a number of objections thrown at me right as soon as I walked in the door, and I would mentally shut down. And
Mm.
those two at that time made a funny comment and said, "Hey, Fitz, can I have all of his leads?" And I was
Mhm.
like, "Wait, what do you mean? What's going on here?" And then they explained to me that when a person throws 3 or 4 objections at you right from the beginning, first of all, that's a buyer. They're defending themselves because they don't know how to else defend and they know they're going to get sold. But second,
Yeah.
they're showing you all of their cards right from the jump. They just told you everything you have to overcome. So if you're able to get rid of those things, then again, the sale is the natural conclusion to the presentation. And that was very eye opening for me. But there are so many moments that came from that squad that I have leaned on throughout my career. And I'm forever talking about you and Mike Garrison and Robert Gooch and even Ed sometimes and those sort of things. Those lessons have really both propelled me and care and helped me along the way. The things we learned there. The other part of it, I this may be a little bit arrogant because not on my part, but because of a renewal. But the process that I run, the process that I'm pretty sure that you run, if, as we've talked about it, it may be a couple evolutions past where we were in the first place, but that's the fundamental of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
We were selling
Yeah.
the highest cost product on the market, and RBA still is the highest cost product on the market. How it is it that they close at 40%? It's not the price. It's
Mm-hmm.
never the price. It's always the value. And like a lot of times when I'm talking to new sales reps or even some tenured sales reps, and I say to them, there's no such thing as a price objection. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you talking about? No, there's a value objection. You didn't build the
Mhm.
value to justify the price that's in there. And when they realize that that's real, there's all of a sudden they take off like a rocket ship.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
good.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
So I was about to cut you off, but you gave a lot of good information there. So you hung out with Fitz in the early days. Fitz and I don't have that type of history with us. You got to give us at least one story about Fitz back then. You seem like a nice guy, but the story doesn't have to be nice.
I can tell you a funny story. This is
Wow.
we got
Be
a win
easy.
together.
Good.
This was pretty cool. And this one, I don't even know if you remember this. It was one of the first appointments that he and I ran together. I didn't really even know him at that time. I think it might have been the first or maybe the second. And we got called and we go out to Fairfax in Virginia that morning. And we walk up to the door, we knock on the door, and the lady starts talking to us through the either the Ring doorbell camera or something like that. Maybe we called her. I forget what it was, but it had snowed pretty significantly. And so the lady would not let us in her house. She was like, it's cool. You guys can do whatever you need to do. I'm not letting you in her house. So we did the entire thing from the exterior. We tromped around outside in the snow. We did the full inspection. I showed her the pictures and she ended up like opening the door and like we showed her the pictures through the door or what have you. And she ended up making me email her a quote for it. I had to do a video demo with her to like show her the window and that sort of stuff. And she ended up signing a contract. I think it was like 22 or $23,000 or whatever. But the funny part of the conversation was I was mad. I was excuse me, I was upset in the first place.
Yeah.
So I was like, "You're not gonna let me in the house. It's snowing outside." And we went back to the car and Fitz goes, "Let's just see what we can do with it. Let's
Yeah,
just stick
that's
in
good.
there and see what we can do with it." And if he wouldn't have been there at that point in my career, I'd have called my
Mhm.
manager and been like, "I'm gonna go. This is stupid." Whereas
Yeah.
he made me stick in there and we found the value and we figured out what she was trying
Mhm.
to do and we got the thing sold. But that's just a testament to what you brought to that squad as far as teaching us things. And sometimes you just need a little bit of, hey, no, hold on, let's stick with this path. It's not broken yet. Let's just see what we can do out of it.
That's
You know,
good.
I do remember that. It was cold as hell that day too.
Yeah.
It sucked being outside. If I'm being honest, and look, managers, we have to say things like when the rep's with you,
Yeah.
right? That sometimes we don't always truly believe. Like, let's see if we can get something out of this. In the back of my mind, I was like, we're not getting shit out of this, right? And I want to get out of here too. It's cold, for the record. But one of the things that I know all of us that have like advanced in our careers are very good at is taking things that other people have said and taught us and translating it and passing it down.
Yep.
I remember, I had forgotten about it, but I remember it because I immediately thought of a good mentor of mine when I was a rep at the company I was with before that. He was a rep with me and he would remind me on a regular, but can't make money sitting on a couch, right?
Yep.
You're here now. May as well see what you can get out of it. I would get frustrated in those moments too, a human being, and he would too, right? We are all guilty of that. We all hit a rut. We all hit bad spots or bad moments or tough homeowners, whatever it is. And it's pretty easy to be the human being and pack it in at that moment and go, hey, thanks, but no thanks. See you later. But I don't get a check going home and sitting on the couch. In fact, it cost me money driving home too. May as well see if there is any dollars to be had here. And who knows? The reality of it is that this person is going to buy from somebody this way. They're not just singling me out or my company out with the one party or the peek bit through the door in this example like that one was. So yeah, I remember that appointment. And if I'm being honest with you now, I wanted to get the hell out of there.
That's a good story. That's good.
Ugh.
So, anything else, I mean, about Fitz's style or something else that stuck with you that you could even say, hey, this is an aspect of my
Yeah.
own personal
Yeah.
leadership
I
style or
do.
training?
I never had a problem with Fitz being on a appointment with me. And that's
Mhm.
not common, right? A lot of times when you have a manager or a trainer that's riding along with you, you are generally going to do things that you don't typically do. So they don't actually get a real transparent view of what's going on. Second, you are generally apprehensive, right? Because you think you're being judged. I never felt that way. I was arguably excited to have him come on an
Mhm.
appointment with me after that first one. The first one, I didn't know what was going on. I was like, really? We're going to chill in the snow? Is that what we're doing? But after that, it was never a problem. I never felt judged. I only felt helped. And it
Mhm.
was always a cool thing when he came along with me because I knew that I was probably going to get a win that day.
There was another one we went on it. Just another quick story that I remember, TJ, to see if you remember it. We were in a home. I think it was. I can't remember where the area was, but kind of out in the sticks a little bit, and country couple. And TJ was doing a great presentation, and the guy had like model cars like in his coffee table, and but he was not warming up at all, and he got hung up really hard on our warranty and why, if we believe so much in our window, why wasn't it a lifetime warranty? And Anderson has a very specific warranty. And TJ kept trying to explain it, tried, this way, that way, 15 different ways. And the guy just kept badgering him. And TJ finally basically threw his hands up, looked dead at me and goes, I don't know what to do. Do you want to try? And I looked at the guy and I forget what we said, but I said, look, we believe in it. This is the longest we can give you though. It's going to last.
Mhm.
It's going to do what it's supposed to do and it's going to be fine. Do you want it or not? And the guy
Mhm.
goes, yeah, I'm good with that. Let's go ahead and do it. Right. And both of us just kind of looked at each other like, I have no idea why that worked, but it worked.
Yeah.
Great. Oh man, TJ, man. So since those days, a lot of fun. I reminisce. We'll have to get together for a beer sometime and go
Yeah.
through some of those old stories. Man, it's been fun watching the journey for you because you've gone on to lead and develop sales teams and multiple companies now. And I want to talk a little bit about sales development. So um, in your experience, how do you take like a B level player, one of your guys in the middle, and turn them into an A level player? What does that process look like?
Well, I mean, you got to figure out what you're working with in the first place. What are their strengths? Oftentimes, I find that sales managers don't understand that they have to speak multiple languages. And I don't mean they have to
Mhm.
speak Mandarin. I mean, they have to speak sales rep A versus sales rep B versus sales rep C, right? If you have a relational guy that you're trying to make into a technical guy, or you've got a fast paced, hard closing guy that you're trying to turn into a slow paced relaxation guy, like that's not going to work. And a lot of times nobody has just spoken their language. So
Mhm.
I always advocate sales managers stop managing numbers, start managing your team. And that happens because you know their strengths, their weaknesses, and how they approach things, right? So I
Sure.
usually will try to go in and just understand what each sales rep is. Tell me what you're comfortable with. Tell me what you're not comfortable with. What areas do you struggle with? And usually that will indicate to me where in the process their strengths are going to lie, right? So if you've got a relational guy for arguments that for and he's been heavily focused on the window demo, those two things don't go together, right? That guy needs
Mhm.
to be heavy on the front end, making a great relationship with the homeowner, finding commonality, finding the shrine. We teach finding the shrine, go in there and find
Yeah.
commonality on that, make a friend. And then the window demo should be a very organic thing. What do you think about this? And how do you feel about this? And using those pieces that he gleaned from the original conversation in that. Whereas if you have another guy that's very technical, trying to force that down his throat, you're going to have a real hard time with that. It's going to feel mechanical and rehearsed. Just let them be them, right? And so a lot of times you have sales reps that are trying to emulate another one or something that the sales manager wants to be, that's getting in their way in the first place.
Yeah.
Next
It's a good
thing I
point.
find is that everybody has a different interpretation of the methodology or the sales process they've been given, right? And
Sure.
so without getting into their interpretation of it, a lot of times it's drastically different than what you thought you taught them because you spoke
Mhm.
your language. They heard another thing completely. And so they're like, well, I'm doing what you told me to do. When in fact, they're doing their version of the thing that they were told to do. So then you have to get
Mhm.
back and retool and say, okay, what did you hear me say right there? Repeat it back to me. And it's amazing. You'll hear some stuff that you're like, wait, what, dude?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you heard me say what now? Right. And but those are the things, those are those key moments that you're like, okay, this guy clearly heard me say something different. No wonder he's doing something dramatically different. So once you learn about your sales reps and then find out what it is that they're interpreting, then you've got to go into the home with them and really see what happens in live fire. Because operating in a
Mhm.
test tube, you can role play all day long, and that's cool. And there's lots of
Mhm.
value. I'm a firm believer in role playing, and it's funny because my managers right now, like being where I'm at in my career, and I'm sure you are too, I drop in and out of role play on accident, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not uncomfortable for me. I'll just start role playing with you and you just got to follow me. Whereas some sales reps are they're anti role play, they're scared of it. It gives them heart palpitations to start doing role
Yep.
play. But regardless, when you get into the home with them and you see how they react in live fire, then you can be like, all right, here's what I saw. Let me explain to you how that relates to the process and how it relates to what you did or didn't do. And then powerful tools are available, guys. Zero and what's the other one?
Mhm.
Gorilla. Those
Mhm.
2 tools are phenomenal tools because hearing your own voice come back to you, so
Mhm.
powerful. And when you hear I
Yeah.
mean, I hate listening to myself too. It's awful. But when they do that, they're like, "Oh my goodness, do I sound like that?"
Mhm.
Yep, you do. And a lot of
Yeah.
times they're losing it because they don't realize what they're coming off as. So those are the
Mhm.
3 areas that I really focus with on a ground level as far as turning a B level into an A player, right? And there's lots more that goes to it, but the other part about it is a lot of times they're not getting continual training and development. They were taught a
Mhm.
process, they went out, they did the process, it worked really well. Then the thing exploded and nobody brought them back in to retool them, right?
Mhm.
Sales
Mhm.
reps need constant training and development. They're just like athletes. You have to practice, role play, read books, do the things that great sales reps do, and that will ingrain those things into your behavior. But if you teach it to them one time and then just expect that they're going to be able to do that, how often does anybody learn anything in their first time that they figured it out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of practice, there's no doubt, and you make a good point with the saying it out loud, and role play, and, one of the things I've always encouraged guys to do is, when you're practicing and learning something, it sounds great when you're rehearsing it in your head, but the second you start saying it out loud, it's totally different. It's like any argument you have with your significant other, right? You're sitting there and you're going like, "Oh, I know the thing that's gonna win this one." And then the second you say it out loud, you're stuck. "Oh, that's not what I meant. That's not
Yeah.
how I didn't mean it like that, right?" Like I sound like a big dummy now, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, you got to practice saying things out loud because it sounds beautiful in your head until you say it out lout
Yeah.
all the time, right? So That practice is critical, and you got to get over the idea that it's uncomfortable to role play. You got to be good with it. It's like hitting off the tee. I'm a baseball guy, right? It's the fundamental drill stuff that you got to be okay with. So
Yeah.
those are really great points.
There's,
That's good.
if you don't mind, one more that I'd like to bring to light. That's something that I think that a lot of sales reps and a lot of humans don't recognize. There's three kinds of listening, and only one of them is relevant. The first kind of listening is really harmful, is where you listen to people and all you hear is noise because you're off in your brain doing a million other things. And then every once in a while, you hear something that might be of interest and then you respond. But the person in front of you realizes that you're not engaging with them at all and you don't care anything about what's going on. This happens often with sales reps because they're so programmed to process and they want to follow script. And the homeowner's trying to talk to them about problems and they blow right by it, right? The second problematic kind is where they listen and until they hear something they want to respond to. And then if they don't get the chance to respond to it right there, everything else that person says from that point on goes out of their brain because they're stuck in the part that they wanted to respond to.
Yep.
The right kind of listening is where you completely engage. You are present in the moment. Nothing else matters. And all I'm doing is listening to you. Then when you're done, I'm going to repeat back to you everything you said to make sure I heard you correctly. That does two things. It makes sure you're addressing the correct problem, but it also tells the homeowner, I'm on your side. It's not me versus you. It's you and me versus the problem.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I do coaching and it's called active listening. And a lot of people, they listen to reply, like you said, rather than listen to understand. We've all talked to people where you can tell that they're just like chomping at the bit to like give you their answer. And it's like, no, I want you to slow down and listen to me. That's really good. That's good. So this is good stuff. Talking about that A player and that B player and how to level up their skills and you as a manager in inserting yourself strategically into these relationships with your guys. The difference between somebody that's making maybe 100K a year versus somebody that's making 300K. Do you think that it's mostly work ethic, or do you think that there's a mental shift or something that you've seen that you go, once I flip the switch, their income doubles or triples?
One of the first problems I have with what you just said is that people were still thinking that 100K is good.
Yeah.
I tell most every sales rep that walks into any organization that I'm a manager of, if you can't write at least $1.5 million, I don't need you. I'm pretty straight and to the point. That's just how it is. But like I can arguably train a blind monkey to go in and hit press play on a process and they hit the key components and get a deal, right? So 100,000, we need to get over the $100,000 mark. That's not a number anymore. It's arguably 150, maybe even 200,000 that we need to get to, but
Okay.
neither here nor there. As far as the difference between that, it's honing your craft, learning your process, and getting continually better every single day. There's certainly a follow-up component to it as well. Now, we can negotiate the validity of a one-call close and then a rehash program versus a follow-up program or what have you. But if your company is affording you the opportunity to follow up, we know that of the sales reps that they visit with, like let's say they see 4 sales reps, which is a lot, but let's say they see 4. 2 of those guys aren't going to follow up at all. One of those guys might follow up one time. And after you get past the second one, you're the last man standing. There's lots of ways to earn business. I've annoyed people into signing contracts with me. I have set reminders on my phone to call them back 6 months later. And I actually called them back and they're like, holy shit, you actually call me back. But yeah, cool. Right. So there's a follow-up component that goes with it as well. And then how do you maximize each sale? A lot of times you're leaving a lot of meat on the bone because you don't do a full inspection or you don't tell them that you offer all of the products. If you're a full service exteriors company, a lot of times they don't realize you are. Like one of the last companies that I worked for was named Abbey Windows and Doors. Well, we also sold roofing and siding, but they called us for windows and doors and nobody ever told them we sold roofing and siding. So I'd be in a presentation a lot of times and they're like, yeah, and we're going to work on this siding. We're trying to find a contractor. I'm like, we do siding. Did you know that? No, I didn't know that. Right.
Yeah.
So sales reps aren't articulating to these homeowners what it is that you're capable of doing, or at least doing an inspection on the outside and coming back and saying, hey, do you know there's a problem with your siding? Hey, do you know that this door on the backside has an issue? I know you want to talk about the bay window up front, but do you know the backside is rotting? No. Oh my God. And then you're into a whole other conversation. I mean, my average job size right now is running somewhere around 25,000, and that's just windows and doors, right? When I was selling siding and roofing, that job size was upwards of 30 because I was always adding on additional stuff, not because they were asking me, because I would find it and, hey, we offer this as well, right? So when you walk into a house and the homeowner says, I want to buy these 4 windows over there, you can do that, or you can say, great. In my agenda, I'm going to do a full exterior inspection on all the windows and doors, and we'll come back and talk about what's necessary. And all of a sudden, that 4 windows becomes 9 or 10 windows,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? Those three
Yeah.
areas can get you from 100, 150 up to 200, 250. And yeah, the work ethic, right?
Mhm.
Really
Yeah.
great sales reps don't have downtime. Well,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that's not true. We have downtime, but I mean, when it's time to work, you're working. When it's the work day, you're working on follow up or you're role playing or you're in your office doing something. Like, I'll give you a little story. I won't take too much of your time, but we were talking earlier about batting order, Fitz. Remember, we were talking about how like the batting order and how you get there. Well, when you come in as a brand new sales rep, you're going to be on the bottom. There's really no way around being on the bottom. And there's only a couple of ways you can get yourself off. One of those ways is by being present with your managers. Well, a lot of the sales reps, when they go through training, they're going to go out and they accept the fact that they're on the bottom and they're just going to get what they get. I never did that. I was like, I'm going to go be in the office anytime that I'm not working so that I'm visible to the managers. I can ask questions. And sooner or later, it got me some opportunities that I arguably shouldn't have had, but I went out and closed them. And that naturally raised me up through the batting order, right? Your behaviors are what give you
Yeah.
your results.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it was actually a lesson I learned from one of the reps that was on our team at Renewal by Anderson was Gooch, Robert Gooch, and he talked about your average reps are going to work. You know, if they're getting 10 appointments a week, they're going to work 20 hours a week, right? It's the 2 hours that they're in their appointments. Your below average reps going to work that amount of time. Your average reps are going to probably work another couple hours around that, right? And be in that like 30-ish hour, range, maybe a little bit more than that. But your reps are going to excel and be really, really good at this job. It's a 50-hour plus a week, kind of job where I'm listening to things, I'm reading things, I'm practicing with people, I'm talking to other, reps who are doing really well at this to learn what I'm missing and what I could do better, right? And those are the little things that separate people from the top of the board and the bottom of the board. And that's what keeps you out of that negative headspace that ends up dragging all of us down from the top of the board at certain points of time. And, it keeps you from staying, in that spiral for long periods of time. That commitment to that longer work week and being dedicated to your craft, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. TJ, I had an opportunity to run a couple teams here, and when you're going in, like in a new role here, when you're taking over a new team, what's like your evaluation process? Like, what's one of the first things you go in, you look at, and you're trying to identify to maybe fix or adjust in a sales process or training regimen?
Well, first, we're assuming they have a process and a training regimen,
That's fair.
right?
That is
That,
totally
that's
fair. That is totally
unfortunately
fair.
a lot of contractors are,
Yeah.
especially in the home services industry, are completely devoid of any kind of process or training program at all. Something that I've worked really hard with my current position on is the onboarding process. So
Mm.
you can get a brand new, highly skilled individual who you could bring into your organization, and they don't have to have all the sales acumen or whatever. They just have to have the willingness to learn and develop. But they come in, and from the jump, the onboarding process is kind of convoluted and wonky. They don't have their tech when they walk in. Their email's not set up properly. Then they go to their first sales meeting, and that devolves into a bitch session where all the sales reps sit around and fuss about what they don't like about what's going on. The prices are too high and the leads suck. So they have a bad impression in the first place. And then there is no real training course other than a manager who goes on a couple of ride alongs with them. And they're like, all right, good deal. Get out there, sport. By the way, this is commission
Mhm.
only. So if you don't hunt me, if you don't kill anything today, you're going to go hungry. Well, they
Mhm.
don't last terribly long, right? That's not
Mhm.
going to work. So one of the first places I go when I go into any sales organization is to determine, do you have a sales process? And what is that sales process? Where did it come from? Do you actually practice that? Or is this just a piece of paper and a notebook that sits over on the shelf there and it has some dust and then your reps are out doing God knows what it is they're doing, right? And then the second place I'm always going to go is to the leadership. There's no such thing as bad soldiers, fellas. There's only bad leaders. And a lot of
Mhm.
times it is the culture that's been set by the sales manager of whether it be animosity between the sales reps, interdepartmental problems that are going on. All of those things will foster negativity in your sales teams, right? What
Mhm.
we do, we are very much athletes in our own regard.
Mhm.
Headspace is really important. If guys get spun out as far as the culture that they're part of or the sales manager, unfortunately, I've had some pretty poor sales managers throughout my career as well. One of them in a sales meeting decided that he was upset because one of the sales reps hadn't been using Arilla and the way he wanted to use it. And in an open forum in a sales management meeting, slammed his computer on the table and threw his phone at the wall. Okay. Do you believe that any of those sales reps left that meeting feeling motivated and excited to go do their jobs that day? Now,
Probably not.
they decided
No.
whether they wanted to work there. That's what
Yeah.
happened, right?
Yeah.
So culture is a really, really big thing for sales reps to keep your mindset straight and be able to go out and execute on a daily basis. And so, to what you're talking about, when I first walk into a sales organization, I'm not going to immediately start making changes. I'm going to find the
Yeah.
problems first, determine where the root of those problems are, and see if I can fix the problems. Then, a lot of the problems that the sales reps are having will naturally work themselves out because they're like, this is fantastic. All of a sudden, I've
Mhm.
got leadership and I've got process and things are working, and that's great. And then you can get into the nuts and bolts of what they're doing. But if you can't change that mindset first, you're going to have a real hard time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. So being the national sales director at Apex, Apex has a unique model. Can you share a little bit about what you get to do at Apex and what that strategy maybe is?
Yeah. So Apex is one of 9 brands that Great Day Home Improvement owns, right? We are
Gotcha.
unique in the brand representation in that we're the only company that doesn't have traditional marketing support. So all of our leads are non-traditional. That's done by canvassing and home shows and events. That's it.
Oh,
There's very minimal social media presence. I mean, we have individual market social media accounts, but those are more for posting like before and after photos or that sort of stuff. There's not any traditional pay per click or Google advertisement. We've got a Google My Business page, but it's not like the LSAs aren't run or anything like that. None of that's being
hmm
done. We are strictly a human capital company in which our leads come from our guys, right? And so the methodology is very different. And as you know, taking a retail lead and going in and selling that lead, they already believe that they have a need. They called
hmm
us because they believe they had a need, and they're going to call 3, 4 other people because they want to get the best value out of things. In that type of appointment, you want to be fairly soft in knowing that they've got already a mindset of we have a need for it. And then you have to build the value on the back end as far as the company, the product, why they should select you, why your solution is correct. With regards to a canvas lead, they don't even know if they have a problem. They
hmm
maybe they think there might be something, but we're building a little bit of excitement at the door and then selling the possibility of us coming in and just giving you a free estimate. That's it. So you have to
hmm
reverse your mindset, and the sales reps have to go real hard on the front side in the inspection to make sure that there is in fact a problem. And then when you find the
hmm
problem, you show it to them. They're like, "That's my house. Oh my god, what do I do?
hmm
How do I fix it?" And now you're the trusted advisor. And then the backside of it is very simple because they're not shopping.
Mhm.
Canvassing leads are never shopping until you give them a reason to shop. They don't have other appointments lined up. I mean, every once in a while you run into an anomaly of a person who just happened upon that was like, yeah, I'm already getting quotes. But that's not the status quo. Typically, it's going to be somebody that didn't even know I had a problem. And then they look at you to fix the problem. And as long as you're able to establish your value, they'll buy from you every time. Right.
Mhm.
So
hmm
my job essentially was to come in and revise the process because we have traditionally been one of the lowest cost brands of the GDI brand set and as well in the market. Problem is they hadn't updated their process to reflect having a window that's not the cheapest one. And now that our pricing has gone up, the old model doesn't really work anymore. And so that's essentially what I was brought in to do was to reinvigorate the sales team, update the sales process, put in a new methodology, and then disseminate that among the managers and the salespeople. And I've only been in seat a short time, but we've got a summit coming up. I've gotten all the process. We've made great progress, but it's essentially that's what my job was to do was to bring the company up to current day process.
That's really
It's
cool.
cool, man. It's funny because there's a lot of people out there that would say it's an old school kind of model. And where I came from prior to my time at Renewal by Anderson, that was how I cut my teeth carrying a bag into a home. That's the only way we got leads as well too. It's certainly a different approach. To steal a line from one of our old colleagues, it's a non-competitive bid situation, which is a cool thing that if you can buy into that as a sales rep, you got a good opportunity there. But um, what are I guess what are the challenges that you run into? Because there are still organizations that's part of their go to market strategy. It's maybe not all of it. The challenges you have with leading the organization and getting the buy in to this is successful.
I don't know that there really are challenges from a sales rep perspective. They're excited to be in a home, and as soon as you teach them that it's not a competitive bid situation, they're really not shopping. Their mindset changes. I think probably the biggest challenge we have is manpower, because when you're a company like ours, the only multiplier we have is the canvassers.
Hmm.
The canvasser per canvasser, the ROI is insane. It's
Mhm.
incredible as far as the ROI, but getting and retaining those canvassers is easier said than done because, especially here in Wisconsin, it's -40 sometimes.
Yeah.
You want to go knock a
Yeah.
door at -40, right? Not really.
Mhm.
Making sure that those guys are taken care of and keeping them and onboarding them correctly and getting them paid properly and all that sort of stuff, that's probably the biggest challenge. But as far as the rest of it goes, once we're in a house, as long as we're following process and methodologies on, we've got a great product. We believe in our value. Our warranties is certainly competitive, everything else we do. And being that we have gone away from the sell a product mentality into the consultative approach to it, we've seen great success. Even
Mhm.
with us not being no longer being the lowest cost product that's out on the market, it was a transition for some of the sales reps. Right? When you go from being Walmart to arguably Nordstrom's, right? It's a little bit different.
Mhm.
You have to change your approach to the homeowners once they came to realize it's not about the number. And I would argue that even there's a position in which you can be too cheap because
Yeah.
people associate cheap products with cheap prices, right? So when you
Mhm.
go in and your window's $1,000, they're like, why?
Mhm.
Are you selling me for $1,000? That this there can't be something phenomenal because they've gotten all these other prices that are much more in line. But when you are middle of the road, then you can say, yeah, I've got a great product. We don't have a 30% marketing budget, so we pass those savings along to the homeowners, which is why we are a little bit lower cost. But then you couple that with a great process and finding the need and really tailoring the presentation, and our close ratios just it went up 3x.
That's awesome. So you mentioned close ratio. This is something that, with the work I do on the sales side for the team at Powerful here, that is an interesting debate that's come up here recently in our world that I'll get your take on here. So the one call close is dying or it's dead. That's something that is a growing thing in our industry. At least it's rumbling at this point. So are people just not training it correctly, or is it actually something that's dead for homeowners these days?
The one call close is the only way to go. You know that. I know that. We preach it. I believe it. We've
Mhm.
proved it over and over again, right? Here's the thing. Homeowners are disappointed when you leave and they didn't get to buy something. A lot of sales reps don't realize this, but we're not selling Ferraris here, guys. This is not a
Mhm.
sexy purchase. I mean, you're selling a kitchen, maybe because wives love to buy kitchens and it's pretty and you can show it off. But if you're selling exteriors, certainly roofing, windows, siding, doors, garage doors, that sort of stuff, there's an aesthetic component to it. But generally, it's going to be a painful process for them to go through. They're going to have a number of sales reps that are unprofessional, won't leave their house, call the manager, give them the buy today price, shove it down their throat approach. And so if they're not able to make a purchase, they know that they've got to do this however many more times until they can, please God, send me
Yeah.
somebody that I can trust and believe in, right? So they're
Mhm.
disappointed when they don't get it. It's, I would argue we have an obligation to remove the barriers and help them make a purchase. They want to buy something. That's why they called you there. They don't sleep better because they got the price. They're not,
Mhm.
you can see things on the internet if you want to see the price. They want to know what their project's going to cost because they want to buy it, right?
Mhm.
So the problem with one call closing, and especially that sales reps generally have with it, is that we don't want to be the car salesman, like you talked about. They hear these horror stories about how the guy wouldn't leave my house for 3 hours and I had to finally call the cops to get him out of there or what have you. That is the exact opposite of what you should be
Yeah.
doing. A sale is the result, the natural result of a great presentation. When you go
Mhm.
through, you help them understand your value, you find the need, you associate the benefit of your product to solve the needs that you have, you show them how to buy using your financing tools and your discounting structure and that sort of stuff, then you'll find that one call closing is the only thing to do because they want you to do it. Now they
Mhm.
Yeah.
say they don't want you to do it because they don't want to be pressured into buying something, but that's because they've probably been mistreated by somebody previously who did what we just talked about. When
Mhm.
Mhm.
I go into a house, Fitz, we were talking about this earlier. I had had people commit to buy things from me after they told me they weren't buying something that day, after they told me they never buy something that day. And I've had them commit to me to buy something before I showed them the price.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say about it than that, right? It's about earning
Mhm.
the trust. And when you earn the trust, they want to buy from you. One call
Yeah.
closing isn't closing, it's just showing them how to buy it and presenting the value so they see it and want to.
100%. Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like maybe Fitz, that was a leading question.
A little bit. I had a feeling I knew where it was going. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's good. That's what we We kind of preach over here too at Powerful. So, I'd like to hear your take, TJ, on maybe share a little bit about what your vision is for the sales team at Apex, what you're thinking world class sales culture is going to look like to you, and then maybe a little bit about how you're building it.
Yep. Well, I'm going to go back to our RBA days. Being a part of that squad was one of the most learning filled and generally uplifting things I've ever had the honor to be a part of. And I was by no means the best sales rep. There were three, four, five of us that were all incredibly good. And I still talk to them. They were mentors of mine. We shared information, but there was never a time in which we weren't having a good time. Yeah, we worked our butts off really hard and we were held to numbers, certainly. And then we were pushed consistently as far as our goals right there. It wasn't like this was just lay around and not do anything, but we had a great time doing it because we were all of a positive mindset. Everybody came to contribute. We all shared best practices and each other for support. That was the culture, in my opinion, predicates pretty much everything else. So as I'm trying to grow and change the Apex culture, we have had to get rid of some people that were long tenured employees and didn't really fit the model anymore. That was job one. If never read a book called Good to Great, highly advise you pick up a copy of it. Rule number one: are the people that are on the people on the bus? Should they be on the bus or should they be off the bus? Then rule
Yeah.
number two: are the people on the bus in the right seats on the bus? Those are the
Yeah.
two most important things you do. So that's what we have been doing, is making sure that the people that are in Apex are going to be people we want to roll with for the future. And then are they in fact in the right seats? We moved some folks around. Managers became different department heads. Sales reps transitioned over to canvassing. Canvassing transitioned to call center. Like, there were moves to put people that we believed were in the right part of our culture, but needed to be in different places. So that was the first part of it. And then as far as the sales reps go, they had been struggling because they really wanted a process. And they knew that the process that they were running wasn't working very well, and they were frustrated. And so when we went in and I shared with them what I'm traditionally used to doing, it was a little bit of a push, right? They're going to be
Yeah.
resistant at first because we don't like change. It is what it is. But then you have to lead from the front in this kind of aspect. So rather than telling them what to do, I said, get in the car. Let's go. Here we go. And a
Mhm.
couple times they look at me, I had three heads, and they're like, the national sales director is going to run this lead. Yeah. Get your bag. Here we go. Right.
Yeah.
And then we go out to a house and we close deals. And they're like, it works. Oh my God, it works. This is amazing. And so all it
Mhm.
takes especially in a larger sales organization, is for a couple of people to see that the thing that you're trying to implement works. And then it spreads like wildfire. And everybody's like, you guys, it worked. The thing he said worked. It's amazing. Okay, let's all listen. And then all of a sudden they start coming to you and asking questions, and they're less resistant to
Mhm.
change, and they're more reluctant to adhere to the old stuff, and they want to progress to the new. Excited to say that I think that we're at that transition phase right now. The guys that I've
Mhm.
got are the right guys. Their mindsets are correct, and they're ready to make that jump. And I've got a summit next week, but I'm bringing in all the sales manager to our home in Indianapolis, and we're going to release the entire new sales process and methodology to them in two forms. They're going to learn it, but it's important that they also know how to teach it. Because
Mhm.
if you
Mhm.
can't go back to your individual markets and teach your team what you've learned here, this is all for naught. So I've got to
Mhm.
spend some time teaching them how to teach and train the trainer. That's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those two things are really exciting for me. And it's hard for me to impress upon you how bought in I am to what we're going to be able to do with this company. I think we're at about 40 million right now. We're aggressive. I think that by the end of 27, we can be $100 million company.
That's amazing.
That's awesome, man. It's really cool to see how excited you are and fired up about it. And
Yeah.
sounds like you're going about things the right way, buddy. That's a cool thing. So
Thank you.
we got a cool segment. Well, we think it's cool anyway, that we like to take people through. So we go, I guess, 3 quick questions, and we try to get your off the cuff response or thought on it. Does that sound good?
Great.
Awesome.
Our way.
Yeah. Cool. So first one for you, TJ, is what is one daily habit every sales professional should add to their routine?
Reading
Okay.
something. It can be an audiobook. I like to read on my iPad, and it doesn't have to be something long. Now, I am a long-term participant of the program called 75 Hard. If you haven't done it, it's incredibly difficult, but it teaches you to read every single day because it kind of forces your hand, and it's ingrained in me now. And sometimes it can just be a quote. There'll be times when I'm scrolling through something or what have you, and even LinkedIn, and I'm reading some things that were posted by some guys that I like to follow, and there'll be a great quote that something clicks in my brain. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. or I'll read a passage from a book, or I'll go back and reread an email from somebody, or whatever it is, right? But you should be reading every single day in some form, because you learn something, or at least it might reiterate something in your brain that you forgot about.
So it's kind of funny because I feel like you may have gotten questions here. This is not a natural segue that normally happens, but the next question
Mhm.
here for you, TJ, what's one book that every sales professional should read?
Influence. Dr. Robert
Uh,
Cialdini. In my opinion, that is the most powerful sales book that is on the market. It's the one that stood the test of time. I mean, The Seven Habits is also phenomenal, but that's more of a proactivity and personal development book. Influence teaches you. The thing that struck me about the book from Dr. Cialdini most was not that it teaches you why other people do things, it teaches you why you do things. I
mm,
read passages in that book and I was like, oh my God, I do that. Is that why I do that? I'm being the world has programmed me. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And so when you come to read that book and you really internalize all the things that he talks about, as far as like the law of reciprocity and the how people view price, and I mean, so much is in that book that's so powerful. But I usually will, if a sales rep, if I bring them into the organization and they ask me what book should I read, go pick up a copy of Influence.
It's really good. All right, last one. So, what's one thing that a previous leader or manager of yours used to do that you are surprised to find yourself doing now as a leader yourself?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. So again, a couple of managers that we've had some, Fitz and I have had some great experience with. One of our previous managers, named Ed. Ed was a really cool guy. I don't know if you know this, but he's a professional musician now.
mhm.
Regardless, he taught me a level of patience that I did not know I could embody myself. Right, and there's one moment that sticks out to me. There was a guy that had called into the office and basically told everybody in the office that I had told him he was going to get a free hardware upgrade. And he had forced this thing down everybody's throat to the point that it finally got back to me. And I was about to get a pretty significant commission hit to myself. And Ed brought me in and goes, hold on, just have a little patience here. Let's call this guy and find out what's really going on. And he got him on the phone, got him to basically say, "No, TJ never told me that. I just think that it should be included." Got the whole thing figured out, and we ended up selling him a hardware upgrade because he wanted it. It's just that he wanted to see if he could get it for free, because everybody wants things
Mhm,
for free. But the reason
mhm,
that resonated with me so much is because patience is something that I've struggled with a lot in my life, right? I'm a type A personality. I want it now. Give it over. And so he really taught me sometimes you got to slow down a little bit. You'll get there. It's cool. You're working with another human being, and you guys got to find the same wavelength. So I would say that
mhm.
patience is something that I never thought that I could embody, and much less can I teach other people that. Well, now I can.
That's cool.
Good.
Ed's a good man, and sometimes like painfully patient would have been the way we would have described him. He had a way of kind of waiting you out on certain things. If you find that we'll do it your way. That's fine. Like you don't gotta think so. And he knew what he was doing with that for sure. He was great with that. So TJ, man, this has been awesome. It's been great catching up and hearing about this new chapter for you. I'm excited and really excited and looking forward to seeing where you guys take things. And man, your story arc from the ice rink to sales rep and now, leading a sales team across the country here. It's an incredible story for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Couldn't be here without you,
Yeah,
bro.
Likewise.
that's good. And, to our listeners, if you're not thinking like an athlete in your sales career, focused on those tiny compounding habits, you're leaving a lot on the table. So, on our next episode, we will be joined by a great mind and great leader in our industry, Bob Camry.
Yeah, that's right. Bob's built some powerhouse sales teams in his time too, in the home remodeling world, and the insights I know he'll share, you definitely don't want to miss those. So, TJ, any final words you want to share with those that listen to the show?
Yeah. Get involved, powerful. I believe in these guys. If you need some sales training, you're talking to the right guys.
Yeah.
Send it.
Appreciate it, man.
Oh,
Appreciate
we
that,
like that.
buddy.
That's a good final word. I like that one.
There you go.
Yeah, it's
Awesome, man.
good. Well, we've shared a lot today. To our listeners, if you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe for more insights like this. Share it with your friends as well. Fitz, it's always been a pleasure.
Likewise, sir. Happy hunting, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.